In our last part, we have discussed the beneficial as well as harmful effects of microorganisms. We have discussed more on beneficial part of microorganisms, whereas discussed less as far as the harmful part of microorganisms are concerned. We emphasized on human diseases caused by microorganisms. Today, we start with diseases causing microorganisms in animals other than human. Which are the diseases caused by microorganisms in animals? Like foot and mouth disease of cattle, foot and mouth disease of cattle animal caused by virus. The causative microorganism is virus. Anthrax, very dangerous and common disease of also of cattle animal, which is caused by some bacteria. And aspergillosis. Aspergillosis is a disease which is found in case of poultry birds. And caused by fungus. So these are the common diseases caused by microorganisms in animals. Now, let's see in plants, what are the diseases caused by microorganisms in plants? Wheat rust disease. Wheat rust disease, it is caused by fungus found in wheat plant. Citrus canker. It's a bacterial disease found in citrus fruit plant. And vein mosaic disease of okra. Vein mosaic disease of okra or bhindi, which is lady's finger. It's a viral disease. So these are the common diseases caused by microorganisms in plants and animals. Now we come to the point which is also very important in this chapter, known as food poisoning. What is food poisoning? Actually, if the food is not covered properly or stored properly or preserved properly, if the food is not covered or stored or preserved properly, actually I must write here not covered or stored or preserved properly, what will happen? It gets spoiled by the action of microorganisms. Gets spoiled by the action of microorganisms. Some toxins are released by microorganisms which may spoil the food. This disease caused due to consumption of such type of spoiled food caused due to the action of microorganism is known as food poisoning. So, what is food poisoning? Food poisoning actually is the disease caused due to consumption of such spoiled food. Consumption of spoiled food due to the action of microorganism is known as food poisoning. The common symptoms of food poisoning. How can we say that we are suffering from food poisoning? Vomiting, abdominal pain, fever, diarrhea, or loose motion, most commonly said. These are the common symptoms of food poisoning. Actually, what happened that bacteria like Salmonella, Clostridium, fungus like Aspergillus are very common food poisoning microorganisms. So, what are the common food poisoning microorganisms? We can write shortly this short form, that is microorganisms, are known as bacteria like Salmonella, Clostridium, this group of bacteria actually are common food poisoning microorganisms. Some fungus like Aspergillus, fungus, so also food poisoning microorganisms. So we have to avoid food poisoning, and to avoid food poisoning we must preserve food to prevent it from getting spoiled. For this purpose, what we have to do? We have to preserve the food. That is another thing known as food preservation. So, food preservation is another aspect to avoid food poisoning. How can we define food preservation? The process by which food materials are given suitable treatment to prevent their spoilage. To prevent spoilage. Necessary treatment provided to the food particles. This treatment may be physical or chemical in nature to prevent their spoilage is known as food preservation. There are so many ways to preserve food. For example, number one, sun drying. Commonly known as dehydration. In dehydration, what we do? We allow the moisture content to remove from the food particle. So, to reduce the moisture content of food and thereby resist the growth of microorganisms, vegetables like peas, cauliflower, etc., are preserved through sun drying. Boiling. Heating kill microorganisms. Heating kill microorganisms. We can kill bacteria and other microorganisms simply by boiling. And most commonly, this practice is made with milk. We boil milk to prevent microorganisms from milk. Next, cooling or refrigeration. These also help to kill the microorganisms or to inhibit the growth of microorganisms like meat, fish, cooked vegetables, cooked food, not only vegetables, cooked food. We keep on refrigerator, and this cooling machine help to prevent the growth of microorganisms and thereby preserve the food. Using common salt. Common salt also a very good preservative agent. It also prevents the growth of microorganisms. We commonly used fish, meat, commonly use this salt to restore the purity or freshness of meat and fish and avoid the contamination caused due to microorganisms. Using sugar. When we preserve fruits in form of jam, jellies, we use sugar for inhibition of the growth of microorganisms. We use mustard oil, vinegar, some other chemical preservatives like sodium metabisulfite. Sodium metabisulfite or sodium benzoate are also very good preservatives. Another very commonly used preservative process is pasteurization. Which is used in case of preserve the milk in dairy farms. What is the basic fundamental theory of pasteurization? That is heating in high temperature and then rapid cooling. Heating in high temperature, then followed by rapid cooling. This is the main fundamental theory of pasteurization. Mostly milk are being processed in that way or preserved in that way. And finally, what we can say that we can preserve our food by packing, proper packing also. Packing in airtight container. So these are the preservation of food. So today we have discussed the 4 basic aspects related to microorganisms. Number 1, the disease causing microorganisms in case of animals other than human beings and plants. In addition to that, we have discussed today the food poisoning and how can we get rid of food poisoning by properly preserve the food in terms of food preservation. So this is all about today's lesson. Thank you. For testing your understanding of this lesson and more videos, log on to www.tubelessons.net.